We now have 15 locations across the US. I got breast cancer and I needed a full year of treatment, because I was the one working in the store and I couldn't find good help. So actually now we have 65 brands, so it's a lot. It's very difficult launching your own business, but when you have other founders who've been through it, that's extremely valuable. I got a lot of no's, but as soon as COVID hit, suddenly those same brands were coming back to me.
Hello, and welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. Every week, we interview some of the best e-commerce founders and dive deep into their key growth drivers, uncovering actionable insights that you can implement in your business. But before we jump into today's conversation, a quick thank you to our friends at Saral. Most brands get influencer marketing wrong. They think paying a creator for a single post will spark a sales spike. That simply doesn't work. Successful brands like Graza, Obvi, and Hexclad are forging genuine partnerships. And that's where Saral comes in. It's your go-to platform for partnering with the right influencers, tracking results, and managing everything in one place. Book a demo at getsaral.com/demo, mention us, and get an extended free trial exclusive for our listeners. Hey Lynn, welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Before we jump in, could you tell our audience a little bit about your business and why you started it?
Sure. So I'm a beauty entrepreneur. I launched Masmi, which is clean premium hair care, at New York Fashion Week in February 2020. I also launched another business called Ilda Nature, which is a bee-powered home fragrance business. And then I launched the Power Beauty Collab, which is a group of about 65 indie beauty and wellness brands. But to answer your question about why I started, I was an advertising executive for almost 30 years and had just really found myself not enjoying it anymore because I was dealing with a lot of bureaucracy, and that is not my strong point. So I wanted to get back to doing what I love, which is building brands. And, what better way to do it than to build your own, right?
What would you say has been the single largest growth driver for your business?
I would say collaborations, because a number of reasons. When we launched, it was a month before COVID. So my business plan had to get thrown out the window, but so did everyone else's. So it was just the reality. But I did a lot of partnerships that first year to grow organically, and they were incredibly helpful for the business. And in fact, so helpful that I decided in 2022 to formalize this partnership sort of program, if you will, so that we could scale it. And that's how the Power Beauty Collab was born, which used to be called the Conscious Beauty Collective, but we had to change the name. Yeah, that has been fantastic. When you find like-minded partners and you can do not just, the usual things like giveaways or blog posts, but then you can do gift with purchase exchanges. You can do live streaming together. We're doing a shop small together promotion right now. There's just so many opportunities to help each other grow.
Awesome. I want to go very deep into this. Could we start off with the very beginning of what made you think about starting this collaboration, and how did it come about, and what were the early days like before you formalized it?
Yeah. So what actually happened was I launched my business in 2020, did a lot of collabs. And then in 2021, I got breast cancer. So I had a very rare, aggressive stage 3 breast cancer, and I needed a full year of treatment. And when I was going through that, one of the silver linings, not that I wish anyone to have cancer, because, it's not fun. But one of the silver linings of my 6-hour chemo sessions is that I was forced to reflect and think, not something I like to do often in terms of just being in your own head for that amount of time at once. There's no Wi-Fi in the hospital, just as anyone's wondering why I couldn't just get on my phone. So yeah, you're basically sitting there getting your chemo treatments. I really used that time to think about how to prioritize my life and my business. And I did realize, those partnerships were so good for the business from an ROI perspective, but they were also good for me mentally, because it's very difficult launching your own business. But when you have other founders who've been through it, who can talk to and share contacts, share insights, share learning, share what not to do, which by the way is even more important sometimes than what to do, that's extremely valuable. And so that's how I came up with this idea was, if I could scale these partnerships and instead of doing 2 or 3 at once, if I could do 40 or 50 at once, it starts to get meaningful from just a reach perspective. Our combined social media reach now is over 1 million. So on my own, I have, 25,000 followers on Instagram, but together we have a very wide reach. So that's the power of the partnerships.
Could you kind of break down what were the kind of brands that you were partnering with early on? Were they very similar to what you were doing? Are these competition? Are they in parallel industries?
I was early on, I was mostly partnering with clean beauty brands, sometimes hair care brands, a lot of skincare brands, sometimes though brands that would also be like what I would consider conscious living, so fashion, jewelry, adjacent brands, but brands that share our values, which good for you, good for the environment, and all small businesses, because I'm definitely an advocate for supporting small businesses. So the key though is finding partners who are aligned on the values, but then also on the contribution, because, one of the things that we found happens is people say yes, but then if they don't follow through with the deliverables, it's disappointing for everybody then. So you really have to make sure to be clear about what the expectations are. If you have to post, how many posts? If you have to send an email to your email database, and give people as much hand holding as possible because that ensures the opportunity for success when you eliminate some of the human error, barriers. But yeah, that's kind of what we did. So for anyone thinking about doing that, yeah, the key is like-minded values, also, similar customer base. We're premium brands, so I wouldn't want to throw somebody in there who's mass market and isn't going to have the same customer base, so that's important too. Yeah, but it's really not hard to do.
Did you get some hesitation early on from some of these brands, especially when you're selling very similar products?
Most of the yes and no. It's funny enough, when I reached out to brands right before we launched in 2019, I got a lot of no's, but as soon as COVID hit, suddenly those same brands were coming back to me. And I think the world has opened up to value collaboration more. There are some brands that occasionally say, well, I want exclusivity. And obviously I say no, because that's not what we're all about. And if I did that, I'd 5 brands, so that wouldn't work. So every now and then there's a brand that doesn't really get it. But the rest of us, there's lots of skin, there's lots of hair. We're all teeny tiny brands. Somebody may love another hair care product that's not mine. That's okay. You know what I mean? So I think if you just sort of have that mindset of abundance as opposed to scarcity, you will find that the partnerships work a lot better.
Once you realize that this is something that's working well for you, how did you go about formalizing it? What does the collective look like right now?
So what we did actually, once I kind of had the idea, we decided to start with our own retail store because it was 2022 and there was a lot of empty retail space available back then, not so much now, but certainly back then. So I partnered with Brookfield Properties and we did our first pop-up at Stonestown Galleria in San Francisco, and it worked really well. We had 32 brands, but it was our own store. And then we did the same thing in Boston, and then we went to Southern California and did 2 more. The problem I was having with that was not scalable. So while I scaled the collective, the actual footprint of the store, because I was the one working in the store and I couldn't find good help other than my daughter and her boyfriend, and they are not an infinite resource. So I decided to change the model last year, and we do now what I call pop-ins, which are curated shelves of 6 to say 15 brands in other people's stores. So it could be med spas, it could be salons, it could be fitness studio. And there's one partner that's an indie brand store in LA and in Valley Fair up in San Jose. So all different kinds of stores, but that has worked great because that can be scaled, a gazillion times, right? And then once we kind of landed on that, I had already had connections from a bunch of the brands I'd worked with. I basically reached out and said what I was thinking, and they They all jumped on. And then we do a lot of co-marketing around it because just having a store or a shelf in a store does not mean it's going to work. So we do a lot of content, we do influencer programs, we have our own digital magazine, we do other things to really try to make sure that there's enough engagement in place to make it work. So it is a massive amount of work if you're going to do what I'm doing. We now have 15 locations across the US. But you don't have to start there. You can start much easier by just doing, the same idea in a smaller scale and see if it works for you.
And I want to get into a little more about the cross promotion part of the entire thing is, how are you guys promoting each other? Could you break down a little more, in terms of social media, in terms of emailers, like how exactly does it work? Because as you mentioned, there are 30 brands, 40 brands. So how do you go about doing it when there's so many people that you need to talk about?
So actually now we have 65 brands. So it's a lot. Yeah. But what we do, so in the Shop Small campaign, for example, we broke everybody into 5 groups to make it more manageable. And that way you are really responsible for just shouting out those people in your group. And then we'll do different giveaways or different blogs or different things where I'll just change up the people so that, over the course of a month or two, you'll have different partners and then you'll be exposed over time to all of those partners' audiences. It takes a little bit of coordination to put it all together. And then, of course, it's also trying to ensure that people actually, like I said earlier, follow through. That if you're like, okay, this group has to post on these days, and here's the graphic, and here's how to do it, the more spoon feeding, the better. And then if people don't, do it, you have to be prepared to deal with the repercussions, either people complaining that there was a bad apple in the group, or you just have to remove the person from the group, or you have to figure out what's going on and help them get it done if they're struggling. So there is a fair amount of that. I mean, as much as we can automate things, the human equation is still very much present when you do these kind of partnerships.
Because at the end of it, it is still relationship building that you need to do with the partners.
It's relationship building, it's trust, it's also knowing that these partners are going to follow through and, you'll be disappointing them. I mean, there's a lot to it, but we really try to build the Power Beauty Collab as a community. And we do monthly calls, we do meetups, so we really try to have people have those personal connections and feel committed and respectful of the group.
So let's say I've been assigned to this group of 5. What are some of the deliverables like? Is it something that you decide, what the deliverable should be? Or is it that you then discuss with each partner and figure out, okay, what can we do with each other? Or is it just standard that, okay, here are the 5 brands you work with?
It's standardized because we don't have the bandwidth to go around to everyone and make custom things. So we basically, people can opt in. So if they want to participate, they don't have to, but we outline what the rules are for participation. So for this particular campaign we're running now, we said, okay, it's going to have 2 components. One, it's going to have a landing page with the participating brands who will all share a same discount code. And then you can vary your discount amount, but you have to be willing to do a discount on the landing page. That was number 1. And then number 2, you have to participate in a giveaway because obviously we know giveaways generate interest. And when we do them, we try to do them over $1,000 value so that people get excited. And you have to have a gift that's worth, at least X amount of dollars. And then once they say yes, then it's like, okay, you're going to be expected to post, 2 times over 2 weeks, email 4 times over 2 weeks, share stories, comment, like, share posts, etc. And, they have to confirm that they're willing to do that. So for the most part, that works out pretty well. I mean, like I said, we always have a few that are non-compliant, but most of the brands appreciate that. I mean, it's for the benefit of us all. So
and beyond getting the reach of each other's audiences, what would you say some of the other benefits are of, working closely with some of your allies, competitors, and people in just adjacent businesses?
I mean, you learn a lot, within our founder group. I would say there's probably not anything that we've come across that somebody in the group hasn't experienced. We had one founder who just went through and a lawsuit for ADA compliance. We had other founders who've had real issues with obviously tariffs, shipments, fulfillment. When Hurricane Milton hit, we had two founders that were really slammed by that. Like, so there's, any question people have, whether it's, who's your insurance provider or how do I get Amazon help or whatever, somebody in the group has a recommendation usually. And that's incredibly helpful because it shortcuts so much time and effort to have somebody who's already proven and recommended. And that's incredibly valuable as well.
And is this something that you're looking to build out to other industries, or is this something you're just currently focusing on as something that helps your own business? Or do you see this as, a standalone business that you can kind of build out into other industries and other verticals?
Yeah, no, I have no desire to make this into a full-time thing for myself or do in other industries. I do it because it's been so helpful for my own business. So, I have my hair care business, Masami, and that's why I do it, because I see the lift in my own business when we're doing these things. So anyone in any industry could do it.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard. And I'm happy to help anyone with specifics if they do want to do it for their industry. Because as I said, I'm not looking to do it myself, but I have the playbook and can certainly help anyone else get up and running. It is a great way to grow, especially if you're small and you don't have outside funding, which of our 65 brands that are now in our collective, I think there's only 2 or 3 that have any kind of funding. The rest of us are self-funded. And so you got to be scrappy and think outside the box a little bit.
And I run a clothing brand, and I've heard what you had to say, and I'm inspired by it, and I'm sold by your idea of starting a collective. And what do I do? What are my next steps? How do I go about forming something like this?
I mean, I think you have to decide what types of co-marketing activities you want to do. You can start with an email campaign like I just described with our Shop Small campaign, or you could do a retail activation, or you could do an event. So I think you have to decide where you're going to start. And then hopefully you've got a Rolodex of brands that you've worked with that you can reach out to, get interest. And maybe there's a few brands initially that you kind of kick things around, kick the tires, test some stuff out, see what people are interested in, see what works. Because not every industry is the same. So what works for beauty may not be the answer for fashion or jewelry or home goods or whatever. And then start there. And then ours has really grown organically because, again, I had to pivot when I realized, well, I can't scale the stores. So I think you have to figure out how to do it in a way that's going to work for what outcome you're looking to drive,
Awesome. And my last question to you is going to be, what advice would you give some of the founders that are listening to this call?
Boy, first of all, be open-minded. The more open you are to collaborations, the better I think the results will be, as opposed to thinking about it as competition. And also, network like crazy. A lot of female founders I've found don't really network the way that the male founders do. So build up your network first, go on LinkedIn, find like-minded founders. You can join groups like Entrepreneurship, which I'm in, or Visionaries, which I'm in also. Things that will help grow your network so that when you're ready to pull the trigger, you've already got people that you can, count on that are interested.
Awesome, Lynn. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.